I'm going to now conclude by saying, yes, there has been a lot of change in this market, but we, from an SES standpoint, we think that we understand the market, and we think that we are gradually shifting our offering to what our customers are looking for and expecting. We see that some of the sector that were gradually reducing, such as the IP tracking, the VSAT, people are still coming back to them because of the service quality, the service availability. But where the growth really is taking place today is where satellite is most relevant, that is in the point-to-multiple point environment, that is in broadband and DTH. This is where we see the growth. I was just going to finish off with a view towards the future. It's one thing to talk about, yes, we're doing DTH, we're very experienced with DTH. I think for the people who know SES, everyone knows the background of the company in Europe when it comes to the DTH business. We're applying this expertise to the African market. We're advising a lot of our prospects and customers. And we're dealing with a lot of the challengers, DTH business challengers of this market. And believe me, there's a lot of changes taking place, a lot of changes. The broadcast environment of Africa is going to dramatically change in the next 24 months. It is happening now. And the same is happening in broadband. When we look at the type of services and the evolution, and I will conclude on this, broadcasting is one thing, but you need to have a vision over where the market is evolving. And that vision, you see it here with services such as SAT IP. Now, SAT IP services are basically broadcast video stream, which basically allows you to distribute this content in an IP shape into your house with some form of a router, and then you can distribute it to your iPad, your iPod, and the different mobile devices that you have in your environment. We're also working with HD and the latest HD standards. Last one that I've heard of is Ultra HD, which apparently is 3 times clearer than HD. So I don't know where we're going. Maybe we'll get to a point one day we can touch things. We'll see. But those are some of the evolutions. And this is going to be my final slide, which you can probably read by yourself. Thank you very much for your attention.
Well, thank you. Great speech. I'd like to thank both Nicolas and Eric for the introductions today. I think, again, a big round of applause for both of them. I think from the speeches to... Oh, come back. We may have a question. And maybe I could ask Florent just to come up and join us for his brief introduction to the break. But what we're hearing today is that there have been a lot of changes impacted by this rapid growth of submarine cable. But we're hearing that although some revenues have been impacted, the greater the capacity that's available, the more the demand that has been stimulated. And the fact is that operators like yourselves are increasing the number of satellites, capacity yourselves, opening offices, to me is a very strong indication that the satellite industry is clearly seeing the opportunity and, again, putting money where your mouth is. So that is very encouraging. Love the stories about the difficulty of doing business in Africa. And I see my friend Bob Herman is here, Bill Herman is here, and he knows, and I'm sure we'll be talking about the challenges of being able to provide highly reliable services across some incredibly difficult terrain. And that's where satellite comes into its own. So I'm encouraged. I hope you are, as a starter. We do have a few minutes for some questions before I hand over to Florent. So please, either you may address them to either of our key speakers, Eric or Nicolas. I think we do have a roaming mic. Is that correct? I know we've got to shake everybody out of... we have a question. If you would introduce yourself, sir.
Yes, actually my name is Yves Bungudi. I'm working for Ozali Investor. So I'm from the Congo DRC, and I just heard that you are talking about the challenge that you have in DRC actually. So I just wanted to find out, do you have any plans to get into the DRC also as well, or the challenge just stopped you?
Challenges are not only in DRC, in a lot of other African countries. I go to Kinshasa very often. We don't have planes. We don't have private jets. Actually, we try to be smart with our money and try to reward our shareholders as opposed to waste our money in jets or private jets. I do fly like everybody else.
But Eric, challenges in countries like DRC, obviously big markets, but the infrastructure, lack of infrastructure is a big impediment. When you tell me that you are flying fuel across the country, that worries me. I don't know if that is viable.
No, we're not flying fuel across the country, but obviously, I'm going to tell you a story that one of my customers was explaining to me. He says, Nicolas, you do not realize the cost of construction in Africa. You do not realize what it costs to put up an antenna in Lubumbashi. So I said, explain to me. He says, well, I'm going to give you one simple example. Just your cement has to come by plane. So your 50 kilos bags of cement have to cost by plane. So he says, imagine the cost of that bag when it lands in Lubumbashi.
Exactly.
And that's the point.
Exactly. Eric, any comments from you as to how Orange is addressing this problem of building out infrastructure to support your services in Africa?
About RDC, it's the last Orange country because we are now operating network in RDC. We are working hardly to improve the infrastructure, the network infrastructure in this country. And we have a few projects to provide GSM backhaul, for example, through satellite. And for Orange, it's a story starting, to be honest. It's a very challenging country. It's a big country, large countries. I think it's 5 times France, for example. And yeah, it's a beginning. It's a beginning for us in these countries.
All right, wonderful. Florent, where are you? Why don't you come and join us here? I can speak to, yes, another question over here.
Yes, just one more. Sorry, I just wanted to find out, do you think that the DRC will have a big impact in Africa if the network just get in?
Sorry, I didn't quite hear that.
I'm asking, do you think if the DRC got the network, the infrastructure and everything else, do you think that it will have a big impact to the Africa?
Okay, so if it did have the infrastructure, how big would the impact be?
Okay, infrastructure is everything. When it comes to moving people, allowing people to communicate. The moment you bring services, you create an economy. You stimulate sub-economy. And we all know that in Africa, the sub-economy is one of the main contributors of the continent. So, yeah, infrastructure is basically everything. The more people invest in the network, the better off the population is.